two people are at the negotiating table. The next person who talks is the weaker person. That's where we are right now, because both sides can see a way out where they win militarily without negotiation.
I would argue Putin has already lost because he was trying to take Kyiv. So he's already losing.
Yeah.
This is not.
But if you go online right now, most people think that they're going to win.
They're stupid.
I agree. I totally
The
agree.
issue is that Russia never really saw parts of Afghanistan as its own with Russian speakers already there. Russia sees Crimea very differently.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to back off as
Crimea, yeah, but I'm talking about Kiev.
No, they're not going to get Kyiv. The issue is that the war's still going on. They're not in Kyiv right now.
But here's the problem with the oil problem. The oil problem doesn't go away unless they get Kiev.
So you think Russia's just going to continue
really
this?
Think, wow.
You don't think that the land grab of half the country isn't going to be worth something?
Well, no, his argument is they got to take the whole thing to transfer the oil.
Well, yeah, to make sure that they don't lose it. Yeah, it's not lose out on their money. But I feel like the land is still a lot of money.
Here's what happened, dude. You went in like with a pair of tens. And you just went all in, and you figured out the other guys have aces, and you can't.
It's true.
You can't back out. That's what he's done.
So he legitimately. How does this make sense from the Russian point of view?
I have a question though, Michael. Hypersonic missiles. Okay, this is something that is talked about all the time. Like this is like their checkmate move, or they're doing all this because they got that in their back pocket. Are we supposed to be worried about this? We're the only country that doesn't have them. That's a big country right now.
Hypersonic missiles.
Yeah, it's like China has them, North Korea has them, Russia has them.
We have scramjets. Like the technology for the hypersonic missile originated with us. Like I'm not, again, because we
just started researching again though, like 6 months
because we don't have Saturn V rockets currently doesn't mean we can't go to the moon. It's just mean we haven't engineered any perfectly. We don't currently. We haven't engineered any. What was the thing we were talking about before?
The hypersonic missile. Or?
I'm not as worried about that, because one of the ways they intend on shooting down ICBMs has to do with lasers. They've tested these things where they put lasers on top of like 747s, and then they can actually like fry. The thing is,
my question is this: from the Russian point of view.
Let me say one other thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's no such thing as a fucking stealth ICBM. Please, all of you who are reading these reports, shut the fuck up. You're stupid as shit. I'm trying to be as nice as I can. The Russians have stealth ICBMs. The Russians barely have ICBMs. This idea that if they had stealth ICBMs, you know what else they would have? Stealth Sukhois. They have
hypersonic. Like
they
said,
stealth MiGs.
But they said they can hook up a nuke to a hypersonic missile though. Like they can shoot one at a hypersonic speed. So that is a little bit scary.
So the reason why that doesn't matter is because once you get to orbit, you're moving at 5 miles a second, and that's already more than hypersonic.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. When you get to orbit, it doesn't make any difference how fast.
I thought these hypersonic missiles were suborbital. That's what makes them hard to catch.
Yeah, like they just shot one in the Ukraine. Like they destroyed a building with one just to kind of flex on us like a few months ago.
I need to see more. I'm not going to comment on this because I don't know a ton about this. I do know this. There's the Chinese tried to fly their version of stealth aircraft, and the Indians were able to see them at 800 miles. They're not even close to having stealth aircraft, and the Chinese will achieve stealth capability before the Russians. Believe that. I mean,
it's true. You can't trust what Russia and China are saying about their military, their stealth technology.
I truly think this is what happened. He lives in a closed society. Putin does, and he expects when he says something doesn't go on social media or on state-run media that's it. And he doesn't understand that his people are using VPNs, and they're using mirrored sites to actually look at websites they're not allowed to look at. Same thing in China. I know I have friends in China. They use
Iran's the same way.
They use VPNs in order to look at Instagram and stuff like that. I think what he thought was the state-run media was going to go along with what he was saying, and they did. Not neo-Nazis are taking over the country, all this nonsense. And he didn't expect the backlash because he's a creepy old man. He doesn't recognize that the world changed. He still thinks he's living in 1985. And because the people who service him, they also think they're living in that time period.
True. I mean, what was the name of the first Russian president, Yeltsin?
Yeah.
When he came to America, they took him to a supermarket.
Yeah.
And he thought it was
fake.
He thought it was fake.
Yeah.
Like, because exactly what you're saying.
The grass was too green. The roses were too red.
He believed his own propaganda from the people around him. So it's not far-fetched to believe. No, serious. He thought it was fake.
So I've heard this theory before that Vladimir Putin legitimately believes his own state-run media, and that's the reason why he's been convinced into thinking that this invasion was a good idea. So something like
I thought he was telling them to do it. I don't.
Yeah, but you keep.
But he thinks it's going well.
Like David Koresh eventually believed his own nonsense. If you keep saying it over and over again, like he actually convinces himself. And so from Vladimir Putin's standpoint, like the other thing is Like, he believes the Americans will never act. He legitimately doesn't. He believed that his army was stronger than it was. All these things, and he believed that the United States would back down. He did, because he thought that they'd be afraid of World War III. He thought that the United States was too divided. All these things that he thought would happen, but it wasn't realistic. And once he invades, he's pot committed. And now, once he's come to the realization that this did not work out, there is no fucking way that, I don't care what a Putin supporter you are, there is no fucking way you're going to tell me that Vladimir Putin was like, we're going to invade Donbass and it's going to take us 14 months to take Kiev. There is no way you're going to convince me that Vladimir Putin intended for this war to take over 18 months for him. It took us 3 goddamn weeks to take Baghdad. Mm-hmm. And you're telling me that he expected that to take 14, 15, 16 months in order to take Kiev? You're a fool if you believe that shit. Yeah. There is no way this is what Putin wanted. There is no way. You'd have to be a moron to believe that shit.
This is why I think we're actually in a position of strength to negotiate if we wanted to at any time, because their objective was to take the entire country. Like you said, they never thought they would be in this situation.
Of course not.
The problem is like the people who advocate to continue send aid and continue the war, we never get an end point. Where is the end point? We want Russian troops out of the eastern parts of Ukraine? Do we want Russian troops out of Crimea? Do we want to prosecute Putin for war crimes, which means we have to go to Moscow? No one wants to define exactly what the end point is. I'm open to listening. Yeah. But I don't want to end up in a situation where we're in Afghanistan for 20 years and no one defines the end point.
Yeah, so that is the problem. When you define the end point, then you kind of lose. Like the end point has to be defined by the person who's losing. Does that make sense? Like it can't be like, for instance, the first couple times when the Germans came to the negotiating table during World War I, they would go to the negotiating table and then they would have these they would put forward these claims and they'd be like, no, dude, you're losing. Like we want complete and total surrender. There's no other way. It's because the Allies had to state, we're going to fight forever until we annihilate you. So if you're winning, you don't define an endpoint. It's when you're losing that you're defining the endpoint, and nobody wants to admit that.
Well, the big difference is in World War I, we didn't always have the threat of nuclear war looming up ahead of us, and we're also in a point now where no one's really losing. Because Russia is...
They just... Yeah, they
This is not the situation of World War I where we really got the Germans down to their knees, or even better, World War II where it was just over. We're still kind of in a stalemate situation. Yeah. So the question is, where do we define the ending? Because there are... I mean, look at North Korea and South Korea. They're still in the state of war. Yeah. This is probably going to happen with Russia and Ukraine also.
I would if I was a U.S. foreign... If I was in those meetings with U.S. foreign policy members, I would personally say, it costs us like $130 billion. I know it sounds like a lot of money, right? It sounds like a lot of money. Go look at how much the Afghan war, when we were prosecuting a war in Afghanistan and Iraq at the same time, $130 billion was nothing. So $130 billion, just keep spending that money until
I'm not worried about the money. Yeah, but it's important. I'm more worried about the possible risk of nuclear war. And I don't see that being worth for the eastern parts of Ukraine. Now, if China invades Taiwan, that's a different story.
I don't know that Taiwan is not Taiwan anymore. I don't know. Like,
I don't mean about Taiwan. I'm talking about the
Hong Kong.
No, I know. I'm talking about Taiwan. I'm really talking about the semiconductor company that we use for our military. Yeah. That's really what I care about. That's a national security problem for us. Yeah. Eastern Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine's known for like wheat. We already export a lot of food here too. Oh, Listen, I'm not trying to be callous about the plight. I support the Ukrainian people. I think what Putin's doing is fucked up completely. Yeah. But the question we need to start asking is, what point do we continue this that we're going to risk nuclear war? And the money's not much. It really isn't when you think about it.
So if we have an understanding, you get our support up until you take Donbass back. At that point, if you go into Russia, then we don't.
We need to define something. But the problem is, we won't even define that. See, at least you're giving me something.
Again, because we think we're winning. Again, two people are at the negotiating table. The next person who talks is the weaker person. That's where we are right now, because both sides can see a way out where they win militarily without negotiation.
I would argue Putin has already lost because he was trying to take Kyiv. So he's already losing. Yeah. This is not...
But if you go online right now, most people think that they're going to win.
They're stupid.
I totally agree. There's no U.S. military member who's has any military historical experience who thinks that Russia is going to take Kiev. There's just no way for them to do it, because they're not. This is not 1943. Well, actually, that's a worse example because they were completely undermanned back then. They lost 25 million people to the Nazis. What I'm saying is, like, this is going to... I love the Russian people. I think Vladimir Putin's a moron. Russia is good at one thing: getting their ass kicked in wars. I'm sorry. I'm going to be the one to say it, but they're terrible. What happened in World War I and World War II, they got completely fucking mollywopped. Now, they were on the winning side, but man, they took an ass whipping in both of those cases.
I mean, even look at this case right now. When Russia first attacked Ukraine last year, I was looking at this and thinking, okay, they'll probably take Kyiv maybe in like 3 weeks, and then the hard part will start, the occupation. That's really where you get fucked. It's really the occupation, right? That's really us in Iraq and Afghanistan. They haven't got air superiority in 14 months.
Oh, they'll never have air support.
This is a joke.
Never.
They will never have air superiority. One more time.
Can you go into that? Why can't Russia get air superiority?
Let me make these statements again. Number one, Russia will never take Kiev. It will never happen. The United States, not just the United States, the European Union, and by the way, the delivery of those F-35s starts in 2024. Once that happens, there is no possible way. The United States has Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, and they can easily fly F-22s and F-35s over the Ukrainian airspace from there. Once that happens, there is no way for Russia to be able to defend itself from Ukraine if Ukraine becomes a part of NATO. That's why they have to invade now. That's another thing. We're going to lose the ability to sell oil to Germany. Ukraine is going to be able to sell their own oil to Germany, which is going to cut us out, which is going to make us even poorer. And Ukraine may become a NATO country having U.S. military assets within the country on the border of our nation. These are three completely the goals that we cannot possibly stand. So they had to invade. But the problem is they thought that they were going to win very easily, and they're not going to win. They will never have air superiority. And in part because here's the issue, and this is going to sound like dirty pool, but I've said this before in this podcast. What's going to happen is when the NATO countries have stealth capability, they're going to be able to attack Russian assets, and the Russians are never going to be able to prove who did it. They're never going to be able to prove who did it. What will happen is the day the Ukrainians push their front forward, that day they're going to be, oh yeah, we used artillery and we blew up your entire front. And they're like, no, those were F-35s. I'm like, prove it, bitch. You haven't. Where's the proof? You can't prove anything. All your people are dead. And it's going to happen a couple of times, and Russia's going to call foul and be like, no, it was the first time that Ukraine wins a decisive battle against Russia, Russia is going to cry foul that the United States stepped in to help them. But the problem is that I don't think that's enough to declare nuclear war. You're not going to have any sentiment to do something like that. And China doesn't want nuclear war either. There's a bunch of countries that don't want nuclear war. And I also think the Russian people who support Putin don't want nuclear war. I think it's one of these things where it's just like he stepped on his own dick. He didn't recognize what he was doing. He was way too pot committed, and now he's in deep shit, and he doesn't know how to get out of this. And there's no way he can maintain his Vladimir Putin-ness and back out of this war.
Yeah,
so
like a pussy.
He's got to screw it.
Well, I guess that's really the concern. If there's no way he can really back out of the
war.
Yeah,
just take Donbass. It's the only way this is going to work.
Hey y'all, Sergio here. I just want to mention I've created a completely free guide that shows you exactly how I went from having low confidence and being painfully awkward around women to easily meeting and dating numerous high-quality, desirable women in real life without the use of any dating apps or social media. So if you're struggling to get out there, if you have approach anxiety or don't know what to say or how to interact with women to make them want you and are sick of using dating apps with low-value girls that hundreds of other guys have been chatting with, click the link in the description below to grab your free guide right now. And if you want private mentorship with me personally to help guide you every step of the way in this process, check out my mentorship program in the description too. I would be happy to help you reach your dating goals and overcome any obstacle you may face. And trust me, if I can do it, you can do it too. I hope to see you soon. Peace out.